We're Eternals. We came here to protect humans from the deviants. When you love something, you fight for it.
Dad, I saw him on TV with the cape shooting laser beams.
I don't wear a cape. You can't protect any of them.
Let's finish this.
Marvel Studios Eternals, rated PG-13, only in theaters November 5th.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Marvel released a new Eternals trailer video, so we'll break it down. There's a bunch of new Easter eggs and a couple of cool references to other comic book characters. So if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. Eternals is like the next big Marvel movie that's coming out at the beginning of November, so we're going to start seeing a lot more footage for it. I know there's still a lot of questions about what's going on with Kit Harington's Black Knight character, some of the Celestials, the history of the MCU that they'll be telling, so I'll try to explain that during this video. But just starting with the new footage, you have Icarus in the UK, in London still, when they're fighting this large deviant. This is all meant to be part of that larger scene where they're saving Kit Harington's Dane Whitman Black Knight character. So the way they explain it is that Icarus obviously has this historical relationship with Cersei's character that goes back 7,000 years. Like they were a couple, they were married for a long time. But jump to present day, for the last hundreds and hundreds of years so far, the Eternals have kind of gone their separate ways just because there aren't that many threats, so they've all just started living normal lives amongst humans. So when the movie picks up, Icarus is still kind of in love with Cersei, but they haven't been together for hundreds and hundreds of years. And she started this relationship with Kit Harington's Black Knight character because they both work at the Natural History Museum in London. This is also part of the clues of how Dane Whitman starts learning about his Black Knight heritage and the legacy of his family. But when this fight scene is happening, you see him fly up in the air and use his eye beams to take out this deviant here. If you notice the background of the buildings on the street and the side here, they're the same buildings from this big bus scene where Cersei uses her powers to transmute the bus into a bunch of flowers to save Kit Harington's character. And he's like, wait, what? What just happened? What are all these flowers? Where did the bus go? Make all the Kit Harington jokes that you want here. Jon Snow still knows nothing. You also see Sprite's character create a bunch of copies of herself, kind of like Loki creates copies of himself as illusions. Illusions are one of her powers. You kind of see her use those in some of the other flashback scenes. So it's right after this scene in the London area where they basically have to explain to Kit Harington's Black Knight character who they are, what Eternals are, what their mission is, and then obviously the question is asked, why didn't you guys help out with Thanos? Probably the biggest question that everybody asked, mostly because Arishem the Judge, the Prime Celestial, told them not to. It's like a core part of their mission. Do not interfere unless it involves the deviants. Yes, I do know there's the big question, like what's going on with Thanos? Isn't he supposed to be part deviant? There's a lot of misconceptions about this. The technical way to explain Thanos is that he's an Eternal from Titan, but he has the deviant mutation. So he's still an Eternal, like from the ground up, but he just looks purple like that, whereas the rest of his family were not purple. It's the deviant mutation that gives him that purple Space Grimace appearance, but genetically, he's still basically an Eternal. So if you wanted to get really technical with whether or not they could have gotten involved because of his deviant mutation, you could say that it's kind of a gray area. But obviously the real answer is that Marvel wasn't ready to introduce those characters yet in the movies. But then there's that other new scene of Icarus and Cersei going around trying to bring the whole team of Eternals back together in present day because of the emergence, and they've just come to Phastos' house where he's living with a full-blown family in the suburbs like he's just any normal human. That's also before the scene where they have that funny vibranium moment where he smashes the table like, oh, look at all the crazy stuff that you must have engineered here. I bet this table's made of vibranium. Even though that vibranium scene is meant to be just a funny moment, the whole connection is because Phastos is the person amongst the Eternals who creates things, like he engineers things. But also the vibranium connection is that sometimes around the universe where vibranium pops up, the Celestials can use it to create their bodies. So one of the theories is that the Celestials actually plan to use the vibranium mound in Wakanda, the one that the Black Panther has been using this whole time, for the creation of this new Celestial as part of the emergence. The whole joke about the little kid yelling about him on TV wearing the cape and Icarus saying, I don't wear a cape, and him shooting laser beams, the way they use this in the movie, in the trailer, it sounds more like a Superman Easter egg. I don't think we've ever had any legit DC Comics Easter eggs in Marvel movies. Maybe some subtle references that you could point to, but no real big Easter eggs for any DC comic book characters. I think mostly to avoid any potential lawsuits, even though technically if you watch like the DC TV shows, they reference Marvel characters on those all the time. Like on the Flash TV show, they've mentioned the Hulk several times. But you could also say this cape joke or no capes joke is an Incredibles reference like no capes. You could call it a Thor reference, any other Marvel character with a cape. Like Vision also had a cape and shot a laser beam out of his forehead. White Vision also does the same thing, even though his Mind Stone was replaced with a special weaponized crystal. And if you're not a big comic book reader, you could also call this a sly reference to the Sentry or even Hyperion. If you're not a big comic book reader, both Sentry and Hyperion are kind of like Marvel's versions of Superman. They're both nearly indestructible, they can fly, and they both have heat vision. Now some of them have other powers beyond that too. But like Sentry, for instance, is meant to be an insane version of Superman. Like what if Superman, but make him totally insane, kind of like Homelander in a PG-13 kind of way. Whereas Homelander on The Boys is like the hard R version of a dark Superman. And the funny thing, we just had Falcon and Winter Soldier with the whole Weapons Plus Super Soldier storyline. The Sentry's origin story is actually part of the Captain America Super Soldier Serum program, like the Weapons Plus program, but Marvel hasn't really been using the Sentry character in the comics that much recently, and I don't think that they have any plans for him in the Marvel movies anytime soon. I think mostly to avoid any unfair comparisons to Superman and any potential lawsuits with Warner Brothers and DC. And they already have so many god-tier powerful characters in the Marvel movies right now. Like how many characters do you need with laser beams shooting out of their eyes that fly around? There's another scene of Crow and Angelina Jolie's Thena character in this. They have a really weird relationship in the comics. Like they actually have a relationship in the comics, but I don't know that they're going to do that in the movies. The whole thing with Crow is that he's the leader of the Deviants, and they want the Celestial that's growing inside planet Earth to emerge and destroy the planet. There is a rumor that Dan Stevens is actually playing the character, but he's just kind of made some jokes about it, made some subtle allusions to it. He's not listed on IMDb, but that really doesn't mean anything. And he was seen with the entire cast where they were filming earlier. And I've done videos in the past about how the Eternals movie is also helping to set up the concept of mutants inside the MCU, the X-Men characters. But a lot of you remember Dan Stevens also played the Legion character, another god-tier powerful X-Men mutant character who's the natural-born son of Professor X and has 1,000 different personalities, each one with its own unique mutant powers. There was a little while when it actually seemed like they might be able to get Patrick Stewart to show up on that TV show as his version of Professor X to say that he was his father. They wound up going a slightly different direction and using a much younger version of Professor X just to explain why it wasn't Patrick Stewart. But funny coincidence here, talking about Game of Thrones actors having reunions inside Marvel movies and Marvel TV shows, because there's so many Game of Thrones actors in the Eternals movie like Jon Snow and Robb Stark. On the Legion series, his father, Professor X, was played by Harry Lloyd, who was Viserys Targaryen on Game of Thrones. There's a little more footage of Gilgamesh and the other Eternals fighting the Deviants in the distant past, and then more footage of them in their armor in what seems like present day, saying, "Let's finish this." Angelina Jolie's Thena character just kind of batting some molten lava away. The way they keep hyping up this erupting volcano, spewing rock and lava everywhere in all the trailers, makes it seem like this is the location where the slumbering Celestial that's been growing inside Earth is going to literally come out of, like literally emerge from. The reason why they needed so many Infinity Gauntlet snaps to finish its maturation process so that it could basically wake up, it releases a certain amount of cosmic energy. It's just the more Infinity Stones you use, like when you're using the full gauntlet, it releases crazy levels of cosmic energy, and the Celestials need those in order to basically create more Celestials. And during the Big Bang, when the first celestial host was created, when many of the Celestials were created, there was just way more of that cosmic energy around, and they used it all to create the Celestials that you see towering around. So cut to present day, when they want to create another Celestial, which they're doing inside planet Earth, it just takes millions and millions of years because they're only trace elements of this cosmic energy that they need. The Infinity Gauntlet snaps just really sped that up. Then even though we don't get a ton of Kit Harington Black Knight footage during this, the whole idea during the movie is that he is basically a historian working at the British Natural History Museum, so he's already predisposed to be looking at history, and that's kind of how he learns about the Eternals characters. But through that, that's also how he discovers the legacy of his family, the legacy of the Black Knight. The connection to the Eternals characters is that they would have been around for the original Black Knight, the Sir Percy Black Knight from Marvel Comics, who would be his ancestor, the first person to bear the curse. And he'll become full-blown Black Knight with the armor, with the ebony blade in Marvel sequels to the Eternals or other spin-off movies or like Avengers 5, because Kevin Feige did say that they had big plans for the character, and Kit Harington also said that he did want to come back in more Marvel movies. But if you have any big questions or you spotted any big Easter eggs in this that I didn't talk about in my previous trailer videos, just write them below in the comments, and I'll try to add all your questions to my future bonus videos. I'll do a lot more Eternals videos as we get closer to the movie coming out. They're using it to set up a bunch of stuff in the MCU, not just the Black Knight character, not just the Celestials, not just the Eternals, but also mutants and X-Men in the background too. Everyone click here for my Venom Let There Be Carnage post-credit scene video, and click here for my Marvel What If Episode 9 trailer video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.